Hi. Now, I've had some very quite important questions from people, especially since I started sharing these videos with you, the difference between a cover supervisor and a teaching assistant. Now, a teaching assistant, sometimes employers and schools combine teaching assistant and learning support assistant. So normally, if you are employed as a teaching assistant, you always, most of the time, work as a learning support assistant as well. Now, teaching assistant, you work with the teacher in the classroom. So whilst the lesson is going on, you are also there with the students, sitting among the students. And if there is any student that needs help, if there is any SEND student, that is any special needs student in the class, then you attend to them whilst the lesson is going on, and then you can help them or guide them through notes taking or explaining some few things with them and stuff like that. So that is teaching assistant and learning support assistant. That's why I said they go hand in hand. Yes. So that is a job on its own. And then we have the cover supervisor. Now, with the cover supervisor, you teach the lesson in the absence of the teacher. Mind you, teaching assistants and learning support assistants don't teach lessons in the absence of a teacher. That is the work of a cover supervisor. So with a cover supervisor, you deliver the lesson that has already been prepared by the teacher. So if the teacher is absent for one reason or the other, then you, the cover supervisor, you would go in and deliver that lesson. So for me personally, I always, especially if for my colleague teachers that want to pursue teaching here in the UK, I always advise that they go for the cover supervisor, because that gives you teaching experience. That gives you actual teaching experience and an introduction into, or a first-hand experience into teaching the curriculum here in the UK. And it helped me a lot. It helped me a lot. And it helps, especially when you have your QTS or you want to start applying for a role as a teacher, even if you don't have your QTS here in England yet. But then the law, like I've said in my earlier videos, the law actually permits that you can teach for a period of 4 years, within which you must have used to get your QTS. So if you are applying for any job, whether before your QTS or even after you've had your QTS, if you're applying for any teaching role, it helps if you have some sort of teaching experience. And they do consider that a lot. They do consider teaching experience or any form of teaching experience in the UK curriculum or in a UK school a lot. That is if you're already here in the UK. If you are not in the UK and you have applied for your QTS whilst outside the UK, and you've had your QTS and you are applying for a job anywhere in the UK, then that is a different thing altogether. Yes. So they do like having an experience, especially here if you're in the UK. So I always advise that if you want to do something like that, then at least start from any of these two job roles, either as a teaching assistant or learning support assistant or a cover supervisor. But preferably, that is what I did. I started as a cover supervisor, and that gave me tons of invaluable, very critical and beyond measure experience in the UK curriculum. And that helped me to even bag my very first teaching role as a maths teacher in one of the secondary schools here in the UK. So yes, that is the difference between a cover supervisor and teaching assistant or learning support assistant. Now, let me also use this to clarify the difference between something else. You see, here, you as a teacher or even as a cover supervisor, you can either be employed by a school as a cover supervisor, where you become a member of their support staff, a member of their cover supervisor staff. There are schools that are well equipped and well financed enough to employ their own cover supervisors. And that the first school that I worked with, that is what happened. They employed me and a whole bunch of other people who were also, even some were teachers that had taken a break from teaching, and maybe they had started a family and they wanted a less role that requires a bit of less responsibility and stuff. So in my school, we had a cover supervisor staff. So and it was a big school. very big school, almost 2,000 student population. So any given day, there is, there are a few teachers bound to be absent, and then they are shared, their lessons are shared among the cover supervisor staff, and then we go to various classes and various lessons, and then we deliver those lessons. So you are either employed fully by a school as a cover supervisor, or employed fully by a school as a teaching assistant or learning support assistant, or you are employed full as a teacher, like whether it's a teaching assistant or learning support assistant or cover supervisor or teacher. You can't be employed by a school full-time or even part-time. That is there. And then we also have working with an agency. We have various agencies that supply teachers or cover supervisors or learning support assistant or teaching assistant to various schools when they do need a replacement, or when they do need someone to fill in for somebody in those schools. So if you are here in the UK, you can either strive to be employed by a school, or you can register with an agency. They would interview you to see that you can actually do any of these jobs, and then they register you as part of their staff. So when they get any contract to supply any school with a teaching assistant or a cover supervisor or even a teacher, then if you are available, then they will just send you there. You do your job, and then you come. So it's like almost every day or every week you'll be going to different school, to do whatever assignment or whatever that you are going to be sent there to do. Now, here's the difference. If you are employed by a school, it means that during holidays, during vacations, you are still paid by the school because you are a member of staff. So you are going to be paid. If you work with an agency, it means that you only work and you only get paid so long as you work. If there is a holiday, then it means that holiday you are not going to work, which means you will not get paid for that day. If there is if students go on holidays, like when we went for the summer holidays, which was like 7 weeks or so, it means throughout that entire period you're not going to be working, which means you're not going to be paid. But those that are employed fully by the school, they are school staff, so they will definitely get paid during all those weeks of holidays or of vacation. So that is the difference there. They all come with an advantage and a disadvantage. You see, because if you work with an agency, you have total control of your time. You have total control of your time. You can rest when you want to, and with that, because you work and you get paid, the pay rate per day working with an agency is higher. If you are to spread the salary that teachers or cover supervisors that have been employed by a school directly, how much they get paid, and you divide that by the number of days, it's less than how much an agency teacher would receive or an agency cover supervisor would receive in a day. Because with the agency staff, if you're an agency staff, you only work when school is in session, and when school is not in session, you don't get work. It's sort of like it makes that up with the pay rates per day being a bit higher as compared to someone who has been employed by a school. But the disadvantage is that when school goes on holidays, you don't get work, which means if you don't have maybe a part-time job during those times, then it means you're not going to get anything, and you'd have to find a way to fend for yourself. So that is the difference between these two. That is the difference between these two. So, but for me, I think it all depends on whom you talk to. There are those that will prefer working with an agency. There are those that will prefer to be employed by a school full-time. So whichever way that you would want to, I think that is for your information there. I'll see you again in the next one to explain something also very important. So thank you. By the way, that is my wife right there. She interrupted me when I was making the and because of that I had to cut it short. So anyway, so that is her right now. Yes. I'll see you again in the next one. Yes, Nandi.
What are you doing?
I don't know.
What are you doing with this mommy?
I'm not kissing mommy.